house needs painting, the grass needs mowing, where's he at?
Hi, this is Hank. Sorry I missed your call. Leave me your name and your number and I'll get back to you.
He's gone fishing.
Hello, welcome once again to Hank Parker Off the Water.
Off the Water with Hank Parker. Every
Why
time.
can't I get that right? Off the Water with Hank Parker. I have my beautiful granddaughter and co-host SaraBeth here just to get that one line right, and I've only got it right maybe once or twice out of about 40 tries.
Yeah, only a couple out of.
Golly bum, I don't know what my problem is. I'm just not a smart man. I think we have got a very exciting and special podcast today. I've got a great friend that I hadn't seen in a long time, and he's become quite famous. I've catered these guys, SaraBeth, for so long, and it's just amazing. I fished with Sammy Kershaw, and it wasn't just right after that. He came up with Yard Sale and sold 1 million records, and I've just worked with so many. And Brad Paisley wasn't a big deal when he fished with me, and just right after that, he was the biggest deal in country music. Just amazing on how well he's done. So I tutor these guys. They hear me sing, and it's amazing.
Oh, no.
Oh, it is. It's amazing.
No.
The Bobby Goldsboro, I fished with Bobby Goldsboro one time, and for you young people, he had some hit records back in the Old Testament, but he's an awesome guy, and he told me I was singing in the boat. He said, "You're without a doubt the worst I've ever heard." And that was the first time I heard that. Then I fished with Brad Paisley, and I started singing, and Paisley said, "There is no doubt in my mind, you're the worst singer I have ever heard in my life." So I have got that kind of unanimous. You know, I got two superstars with me, and they both agreed that I was the worst they've ever heard. So I'm number one at being on the bottom.
Yeah. That's funny.
Well, I mean, you got to make lemonade out of lemons. So if I'm the worst they've ever heard, then I got a title. I mean, I'm special if I'm the worst they've ever heard. And I know both Bobby Goldsboro and Brad Paisley have heard some really bad singing in their life. So for me to be number one at the worst, number one. I like that. Well, we're going to have Mr. Brad Paisley join us here just a minute. Brad, this is my co-host and my granddaughter, SaraBeth.
Hey, nice to meet you.
SaraBeth, how are you? Granddaughter?
Yep.
Granddaughter. How
What kind
about
of grandpa is he? He's got to be the best kind of grandpa.
He really is. He'd do anything. I asked him to go fishing the other day. I wasn't expecting him to grab the whole rod and reel. I just asked him what bait he'd use because I just told him the conditions, and he said, "I have a rod sitting for you on the front porch with a bait attached to it for tomorrow." So,
Wow.
yeah, he's a great.
You got to take care of them grandbabies. Now, you got some kids. You got one son, two boys.
They're good boys so far. Now, wait a minute. You still in Carolina?
I'm in South Carolina. I was in North Carolina when you and I first met, and then I moved to South Carolina. So I'm right across the line.
Is there a difference?
Yeah. Do you know, I have a mind blank. Robert Arthur, you know Robert Arthur well.
I love Robert Arthur. I see him once a week.
He's from right down the road, about 5 miles from where I live.
Well, I wouldn't use that as some sort of I mean, if you're trying to impress me, that ain't it.
That ought to impress you. And Monty Allen, how about Monty Allen plays with Allen?
Impresses me. Monty impresses me. Robert Arthur does not.
Okay, all right. Well, they're both just about 5 miles away from me. So this is my famed town here,
That's great.
Union, South Carolina.
Well, I mean, what lake do you fish there?
I fish Hartwell. I fish Lake Murray. I fish Santee Cooper. Have a little lake, a hot water lake here called Lake Monticello, which I love. I fish it a lot, and it's got smallmouth in it, so it's kind of a treat to go over there and catch some smallmouth in the hot water lake.
Are they big there?
That's pretty good.
Yeah, big smallmouth in that lake?
Well, I've caught one about 5.5, but there's been a couple caught that are up in the 6 and 7 pound range. So there's some big ones.
Mm,
I like
that's
that.
cool.
Yeah, there's some in Barkley as well, just about an hour and a half north of you.
Oh, I know. Well, then also is in Berkeley and Kentucky Lake, they're kind of sister lakes,
That's right.
right?
There's a diversion canal that join them together down by the dam at
Yeah.
both lakes.
There's Kentucky Lake. I mean, there's world record smallmouth in Kentucky Lake.
I don't doubt that. Pretty cool. The northern part of the world now, Brad, has taken over for big smallmouth, the St. Lawrence Seaway up in New York, because they have a little bait fish called a goby, and it came from China, and they thought it was going to be very evasive and wanted to get rid of it. It's turned out to be a big bonus because now these smallmouth that used to weigh 3 pounds weigh 6 and 7 pounds, and you catch lots of them.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy.
Oh, let's go there.
Yeah, that's good. I do that, and I'm probably going to do that in October. So I'll check your schedule if you're available. Now, how old's your boys?
15 and 17.
Oh
They're doing
man,
great. They're good boys so far. Like I said, they're not fully cooked, but they're getting there. Medium rare.
well,
Medium
you
rare.
know the seed that they came from, so you kind of reap what you sow.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you
Yeah, they're
something
good.
that will disappoint you. All that talk about what goes around comes around, it's not true. I've sat by the mailbox waiting on one of those checks from my boys to come back. I ain't got one yet. So I don't know if it comes back or not.
No, that's true. But they get to go their own way, and so do you do this typically this with your granddaughter here? Do you always do this show together?
She has
Yes.
co-hosted all but about two. I only started my podcast in February.
Yeah.
So,
Mm.
our old traditional method of television is fading. So now it's all about YouTube, social media, and you got to have a podcast to survive. So we started in February. So she's been my sidekick.
I love it. I love podcasts anyway. I listen to them a lot. I mean, all different subjects. There's nothing like being able to sort of just zone out. And if you got something to do, like my wife loves it. I listen to a baseball podcast called Dodger Talk for my team, and my wife, it's every day at about 8 o'clock at night. She'll say, "Is there a new Dodger Talk tonight?" And I'm like, "Yeah," and she's like, "Oh, cool. Can you do the dishes?" And it's her way of getting me to do stuff in the kitchen because she knows I'll just put that in for 45 minutes. I'm gone. And I now that I know you've got one, this is going to be this will be great. So do you give up fishing secrets on here and you talk to people about like where they're going and what's working and all that?
All the time,
What you do?
all the time. We talk about all the new baits and
Oh yeah.
the controversial topic. Now we've got this new sonar that you see the fish, you see your bait, you see the fish
Hold,
come up and eat, and it's a very controversial topic.
hold on, my dog's going. Hold on
Okay,
one second, Hank.
no problem. We're going to put it on pause for a second, and we're going to take care of the dog. And I can see in the backdrop 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I see 8 guitars in the backdrop while he's going after the dog.
All right, got it. Sorry about that.
Hey, I see 8 guitars in the backdrop behind you.
Yeah, that's a drop in the bucket.
Uh-huh.
What that is.
Well, I
Sorry, we
know.
had somebody walk in the house just now. There, he didn't like that.
I know that when that flood hit Nashville, you lost some incredible guitars. I saw a little news break, and you had them in a
Yeah,
warehouse.
we did. Me and a lot of guys. Me, Vince Gill, Keith Urban. We all had stuff in a warehouse that was it just was in the wrong place. They had a warehouse down by the water. Also, nobody thought they would ever get that high, and it never had, as far as we remember. And before any of us could do anything about it, that water rose up, and it rose up in such a way that it cut the building off. we all knew it was coming, but there was no way to get to it because it had cut the building off from like access. And before we knew it, everything we owned, all of my road gear and a lot of stuff in storage, was under about 6 or 8 feet of water.
Wow.
And now some of them survived.
No kidding.
Some of them actually, could be brought back to life. Others, it was the strangest thing. You'd open up one road case and there'd be an acoustic guitar that literally, once you dried it out, still worked.
Wow.
And then you'd open another one up and it looked like somebody had not put it together yet. It was just everything had come unraveled. Like everything was in pieces, like all the glue come apart. So I don't know, but every one of them that survived, this is what's crazy, sounds better now and got better. And
That
I
is
think
crazy.
there's some about river water coming it out. And but there was one guitar, one of my Telecasters needed dried out. The body was truly just a real, like, it was a big thick piece of wood and it just totally soaked through. And so a luthier that I know stuck it on rice, dry rice, just to let that rice like soak the water out. And he kept replacing the rice as it would blow up and look like puffed rice. Cereal. But the stuff growing in the rice was a color of green.
Oh.
I mean, I don't know. It was a Michael Crichton novel. It was literally like gonna kill us. Whatever was growing in that stuff from that river, because I don't know what was in that water.
Ooh. I can imagine. So you're
There's
saying
something
that
poetic about a country singer's guitar getting dipped in the river a little bit.
so what you're saying, you got some that sound better after they were actually submerged and now they're dried out and they sound better.
Yeah. I mean, it's not something I would recommend doing, but if you do, I think there's a magic to it. I mean, everybody said the same thing too.
Well, I think
All the ones who fixed guitars from that said it's better now.
I think you could get Tim Owens to write a song, Better After Baptized.
Oh yeah, that's true. We could do that. Although, I'm not sure he is. He might be the exception.
Oh, I got to talk to him. I hadn't talked to him in 20 years. That's amazing, isn't it?
We've got to get the whole band back together, don't we?
Yeah, that would be cool. I'd like
We
that.
we should go do a big trip somewhere.
Well, I'm going to miss a reunion.
Yes. That's 20 years right now.
Yeah,
Yep. He was
Wasn't that 2003?
I think so.
Oh Lord, that's the year I was born.
The year she was
That's the
born.
year
That
I
makes
was
you
born.
feel old. I didn't like
You
that.
don't know life without that song.
Nope.
She don't.
You
I
don't know
don't.
life before your grandpa was a rock star.
That's right.
I made him a country music star.
Oh yeah, he told me all about when y'all set him up for him to
that's
start singing.
That's another story. I want to remind you of this, and I'm sure you'll remember it. Of course, a couple of things. One, the first year you were on tour, your stage was a Ranger boat. You performed out of a Ranger boat. That was pretty
right.
unique.
It was a really cool set, and they made it for us. They took one of the hulls. I'm sure that was hopefully it was a factory second that they weren't going to sell. They cut it straight down the middle and made it two pieces, and it was setting like you were on the water. If you came to see us in concert, there was a boat there, and we used it on the CMA Awards. I remember Kenny Chesney lost his mind when he looked and saw a Ranger bass boat. We were all on this bass boat playing. I think I was up on the flipping deck, and it was just like nobody could. It was the coolest stage set of all time.
I think so too.
We definitely did bigger and more expensive, but never cooler than that.
Yeah, that was so cool. And you came and played and performed for us at the Ranger Dealer Show, and that is when you discovered that I absolutely could not sing a lick, could not carry a tune in a bucket. And so when we were at Kentucky Motor Speedway, you had 30,000 people listening to you perform, and so you called me up on stage and you set me up, which I hadn't got over yet. It damaged me, and you guys played. and you put the microphone for me to sing. Looky there, I got a bite, and I couldn't carry that, and you guys all shut up and quit playing and left me hanging, and in front of 30,000 people, revealed to the world that I can't carry a tune in a bucket.
Well, I mean, you know what? Everybody watched your show for different reasons. So it wasn't like, I think luckily we sort of gave you a chance to like, we let you know early on, you're not one of these people that made the mistake of going and trying to get a record deal. You learned quickly at that point. I did you a favor is what I did.
He said it's over before it even started. It was over.
I told somebody I fished with Bobby Goldsboro a couple of years ago, and he told me that I was without a doubt the worst he'd ever heard as I sang in the boat as I fished. You told me the exact same thing. So you and Bobby Goldsboro are in one accord that I'm the worst you've ever heard.
Well, these days, I mean, there's some pretty good technology. We can fix anything you do. We can take you in the studio and see if we can tune you up.
Well,
I don't know if, though, it might be baffled.
Yeah, I'd like to see
Wouldn't know
that.
what to do.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. I'd like that. Well, do you still get to fish any?
Yes. In fact, since I've seen you, we might have bought the farm I'm on shortly after I last saw you, and we built about a 3-acre lake on it, and it had a smaller pond too that was more like a 3/4 acre. So it's got 2 ponds that kind of feed each other, and they're just the right size to grow pretty big bass in them if you do it right. And so we've somehow done it right because my old guitar tech's son Luke, who's 15, probably fishes it the most of anyone I know, and he is out here once a week at least. I fish it like when I feel like the greatest thing in the world is to be able to walk out the door, grab a pole, and just throw in at any time of day, walking distance from the door on a pond that you built, that you made we cultivated, we did all the things you're supposed to do to make a pond great. It's got structure and cover and everything, and it's pretty deep. It's 20 feet deep in the middle, which is great. It's deep enough to hold. I mean, I've caught crappie in there. We didn't put them in, but they're in there somehow. And so lately, the biggest thing lately was Luke started screaming. One day I was at the studio house that I'm in right here with all the guitars, working with his dad, and he was up there fishing. He called, and he sounded like he was, like, I don't know, having a conniption fit. And he said, "Get up here." So he sent us a picture on his phone holding what he caught, and it was massive. So I grabbed a scale out of the basement, and we ran up there. And then I told him, I said, "Luke, keep your finger in its mouth and keep it in the water until we get there." And luckily, it was spring, so it was still cool. And so we got up there. It only took us a minute or two. Got up there, put the scale down, weighed it. It was 12.
Ooh.
And then he let it go, and it swam off. At that moment, we got a bunch of photos. But 12 in a pond that you built yourself is fun.
Yeah, that's exciting. That's good stuff.
And there's bigger than that in there. So, the thing about it too is that it's fun to watch. And like this, here's this 15-year-old kid caught a 12-pound bass. That's a bass of a lifetime for just about anybody. And it's so funny because he's so into fishing that he watches you, and he watches anything he can get his hands on. And it's ironic that he gets to come over here and go into this pond that honestly was stocked. Remember Stinson?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Lawson's?
Yeah.
Half the fish in there came from down there.
I'll be darned.
And we went down with a tank truck and brought some back when we stocked it, and because they had, that pond was just full. And so I'm not sure if that's even legal or if we should be talking about it on here. But anyway,
Statute of limitations.
Sorry,
that was back in the.
yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah, that was way back. Yeah.
What's fun about Luke though is he's in the fishing here at Franklin. In Franklin, they have a fishing club. Like you can literally do tournaments as a gym credit, and he's in that, and what's so sad is that he comes up here. He's caught an 8, a 9.9, a 12, and a
God.
bunch of everything in between up at this pond here. And then he goes out of the bass tournament and it catches 2 half-pound bass.
Oh yeah.
It's not fair.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's a part of it. I'm working on a project now with a guy named Danny Bennett down in Georgia on with a company called Huckleberry Apparel, doing fundraising opportunities for high school fishing teams. So it's really
Oh,
cool
that's great.
to see these kids get involved and how many there are. There's like 5 or 6 thousand fishing teams, high school fishing teams around the country. So it's a pretty big deal.
Well, tell me how I can get involved and help out with that, because that'd be a passion project for me too. Because I think there's no better thing you can do with a kid. That's Walmart for a while had that teach a kid to fish initiative, which was really neat as well. Like they would go into inner cities and you would take kids out and teach them like to take them fishing, and so I think if I can help with that, I'd love to. That sounds like a great cause.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I'll get you some information when we get through. I'll send it to you, and you can look at the link and see what all we got going on. But I go to a lot of these high schools, and I talk to these kids, and I try to get them grounded in the basic fundamentals. And every time the conversation leads back to sponsorship or funding. How can we get the funds we need to get boat captains and be able to go out on public water and fish? And so it's a catch-22 for them. They've got all the things lined up, but they don't have the funds to be able to pay the boat captains and buy the gasoline. And so now we're giving them an opportunity through an apparel fundraiser to make enough money to support the boat captains and whatever else they have. I mean, they can make some significant money, and it's pretty cool that we got that program off the ground. We introduced it this year at the Bassmaster Classic, and it's going like gangbusters. So I'll get you some info
I'll
on it.
bet. That's great. What a good cause.
Oh yeah.
I've seen it firsthand with Luke and his love of it, and just the idea that boy, can you imagine when you were in school getting credit for this?
Woo. I might have stayed in school another year. You know, that 8th grade, the 5 years I spent there was the hardest 5 years of my life.
Yeah, I hear you.
Well, tell me now, when we fished, you were just living the dream, man. You had just had your first hit record, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Who Needs Pictures? And you played me a demo. If you remember, we were riding in my car, and you played me a demo of I'm Gonna Miss Her. And you said, that's a cute little song. And I said, man, that's a #1 hit. That is awesome. And you said, you really think so? I said, absolutely. So that goes back to, you hadn't even launched that at that point or recorded it as far as I know. And so you got Who Needs Pictures? Right. And then you just blew up, man. Brad Paisley became the biggest name in country music. And your life had to be a whirlwind, man. You got married to a movie star, moved to L.A., and you're all over the world, and you're touring, and you're meeting yourself going down the road. Was all that fun, or was that a stressful time? Tell me a little bit about it.
Oh, it was great. I mean, everything about these things, like, with the I'm Gonna Miss Her with that song, it was, for me, that video and that launch really did set me up in a way that people finally understood my personality a little bit. And having you in that, as well as little Jimmy Dickens was in that video, and remember Dan Patrick was doing the narrating.
ESPN, yeah.
Yes, and Forrest. Was in that.
That was awesome.
Just getting that world that I grew up in every way, from country music to sports to fishing to all that, just that collision of that, I think it really did inform like everything I did after that. Because I learned quickly. I was like, oh, we can make little funny sitcom type videos, and did those every now and then. Like did that video and the video for Celebrity and online, and some of those wacky treatments that we did. And then but that video, I mean, it's hard to beat that. Like, and that video had Kim in it. We were still dating when we when we made the I'm Gonna Miss Her video. So
Oh, I love the
he's
way
one
she
that-
threw your clothes out in the yard and the expression on your face. I mean,
Yep.
you almost look like a professional actor in that. You did a great job. Of course, that was natural for her.
It was acting for her at the time, and then later on, she recreated it in real life
Oh
a
man.
couple times.
Yeah, I've been married a long time, and it's probably the longest war in history, so I know all about it.
Hey man.
Funny line.
Yeah. Well,
That's
now
funny.
you had so much fun, and you were carefree, just with ambition. I know you used to open for Brian White. You remember back in the old days, you came to Greenville, South Carolina, you opened for Brian White. I fished with Brian the day after you guys performed in Greenville, and he told me, he said, man, this kid, Brad Paisley, is ate up with fishing. That is all he wants to talk about, but he's got more talent. He's the best musician. He said, that rascal can play a guitar like Glenn Campbell or nobody else, or Jerry Reed. I mean, he can pick a guitar. He's going to be somebody. So then when I fished with you, you were just getting started, man. You had one hit, and you're on the road, and just 2 years down the road, you're the biggest name in all of country music. You got everything's number one, and it's just crazy how it took off.
Yeah, that was we were really lucky that I was able to sort of get away with a lot of things. After they let me through the door, I took full advantage of it, to put it mildly. And I'll never forget, like, a great example. Speaking of our buddy Tim Owens, a great example is this. You know, all these hits that I had ran the gamut from things like I'm Gonna Miss Her and Mud on the Tires and fun things like that, and then the really serious stuff like Whiskey Lullaby or Waiting on a Woman and things like that, and everything in between. And the thing that, like, the moment I knew they were letting me kind of get away with murder was we released Ticks, which I co-wrote with.
Oh, yeah, yep.
And there was this songwriter in town. I won't say his name. He's a great songwriter. He's written some hits for me even, but he hadn't heard it. And then he turned on the radio and hears, I'd like to check you for ticks. And he gets mad and calls me, and he answered the phone, and he said, well, they're just going to let you get away with anything, aren't they? And he was really upset that I had got a song about that. And I'm like, yeah, I guess. Because, I mean, you can imagine when I turned that into the record label, I mean, it could have gone either way. They could have said I was crazy. And they have, in the past, I'm Gonna Miss Her, the fishing song, is a great example of something where I had to really fight for that. You may have said it was a number one in the truck when you first heard the demo, but they didn't think so. I had to really beg them. They were like, no, women aren't going to like this. And I had played it in concert enough to know women do. What it is they understand us. They absolutely get it. Like, there's nothing about that you listen and go, well, that guy is he's not typical. He's an idiot. No, we're all like, that guy is all of us in the song. And the women listen to that. I would see it. Like, I would see, just the minute I'd get to, well, I'm going to miss her, I would just see the woman just elbowing the guy next to her. And he's like, what? That's not me. But she knows it is.
Yeah. That is so
I had to
cool.
fight for that, and I had to fight for a bunch of them like that. Where another example was the song "Alcohol." They did not want to put that out.
Oh, yeah.
And I just
Yeah.
begged them. I begged them. I was like, well, I didn't even beg them. By then, like you said, I was on a roll, and I was like, sorry, that's all you get.
Yeah.
I turned in one song, said, put that out, and they did, and it worked.
Well, when you fought for I'm Gonna Miss Her, what a smash hit. And Whiskey Lullaby is, you know, you look at country music, you look at the history, and you look at all the incredible songs. He Stopped Loving Her Today by George Jones. And you look at all these great artists with these incredible songs. And Whiskey Lullaby, in my opinion, is in the top 10 of all songs of all times. I mean, it's just a killer. The way you did that and put it together was just awesome. But I'm Gonna Miss Her is a song we're all still singing 20 years later.
Yeah, that's what's fun about that is that one of the things the record label didn't like was that obviously they said women are going to be offended that you would leave them to go fishing. And I'm like, they know us. I can't explain it. But the other thing was they said, well, it's kind of a joke, and will it work after you've heard the joke? Like, and I said, yeah, I don't think the joke gets old. I mean, that's just, if anything, it's making fun of men in that song because obviously we are fools at times.
Oh yeah, yeah. I would have to agree with that. And I can think about times that I should have been doing other things, but looky there, I got a bite, so I'm going to
Oh, yeah.
stay a little bit longer.
Yeah, what was that? House needs painting, grass needs mowing.
Yeah, gone fishing.
Oh, exactly.
Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's part of it.
Go fishing. I know that theme song by heart from every Saturday.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I always admired you for the way you befriended and took care of little Jimmy Dickens. I mean, you're both from West
Loved him.
Virginia, and you were a true friend, and you lend all your star power and incorporated him in a lot of things, and always talked about him. And
Man, there's just not a better example of a life well lived than him. I mean, I I have great fishing stories about him too. Speaking of this theme, I mean, our friendship, this friendship that is, I would again, one of the top couple friendships I'll ever have in my life, and that includes family and wife and parents and everything. I mean, Jimmy's up there in that group of like the friends you don't even deserve. And he was so inspiring in his outlook on life. I mean, he died at 94, still able to entertain people. Um, Never lost his mind at all. He was always sharp. He completely and totally lived it to the fullest. And he was the most capable of laughing at himself of just about anyone I've ever known. I mean, it was a great example of maybe that's the trick to living a long time is not taking yourself too serious. And Jimmy, the way we became friends, he's from West Virginia like me. So I grew up thinking he was it. And also, every kid loved little Jimmy Dickens because he was a 4'11" guy covered in rhinestones and big cowboy hat and a big Gibson J200 guitar that he'd play up here. And every little kid was like, he's just like me. He's my height. And he was so fun. And so when I got to the Opry, first time I ever played the Opry, I went up to him backstage. He didn't know I was yet. I don't think Who Needs Pictures had broken the top 40 yet. Because it took it a while.
yeah,
And I walked in that backstage entrance and I said, there he was. And I said, Jimmy, my name's Brad. I have a record deal in Arista and a new song out. And I said, I'm from West Virginia. Would you like to go fishing with me? And he said, yes, sir. When? And I said, you tell me, but I'm free all week. He said, well, how's Monday morning? I said, great. He said, okay. And he said, do you know where I live? I said, yeah, I do. I'm not far from you. You're in Brentwood, Tennessee, right? And he said, yeah. And I said, okay. Well, I said, I got a little pond that's, an hour away that a friend of mine owns, and I'll come pick you up. He said, I'll be waiting at the mailbox at 7:30 Monday morning. And if he isn't, I drive up to the mailbox of his house, and my friend Kelly was with me, and there he is. He's got 2 poles, a fishing vest, a fishing hat, a tackle box, and he's smoking a cigarette. And he's standing at his mailbox looking like a lawn ornament of Jimmy Dickens. And I drive up, and he just puts his stuff in the back of my truck, hops in, and we drive down and go fishing for the whole day. Best day ever.
wow.
And my friend's in-laws who owned the pond found out he was coming and had a whole spread. It was Thanksgiving dinner, basically. And we ate, went back out, fished till dark, brought him home, and we were friends forever.
That is so cool.
And then when we moved to the farm I'm on, there wasn't much out here. There was the one little pond, and I had told him about it, but he hadn't come out yet. We had only been here like 2 weeks, and he had said to Kim, "Where do you guys live?" And she told him the address, and I didn't know he knew. So I think she had told Mona like how to get here, and said, "Y'all come out sometime." And I had told him, I said, "Well, there's a pond on it. It's been here a long time." So I'm out on the road. She's on the farm all by herself. There's nothing. There's nobody out here. And she calls me in a panic early on a Saturday morning, and I'm on the road. She goes, "There's a truck in the driveway." And I'm like, "Well, that's not right. No one's supposed to be there." She's like, I know. I don't even see anybody." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "There's nobody in it, and it's just a truck, and I don't know what to do." And I said, "Well, hold on. What kind of truck?" She said, "It's a little red truck." And I went, "Oh, wait a minute." I said, "Go see if there's a garden gnome fishing in the pond." And sure enough, she goes out. He has just driven up, parked his truck, walked over. He's got his tackle box, and he's just throwing it in. He's like, "Well, hey, Kim." He just let himself in. He's never been here before and scared her to death.
Oh.
That is so
And then
cool.
he would come out quite a bit. I have great photos of all that, him with the kids before he died and all that. So I miss him to this day. I can't even tell all the stories that I know about him.
That is cool, man. I know I was always admired the way you treated him and you befriended him and you shared your stardom. I mean, I don't know if it ever dawned on you or not, but you were one of the biggest names in the country. I mean, everybody knew who you were, and you had hit record after hit record, and it was just amazing how fast you went from. And I think little Jimmy Dickens is the one that told his wife she got into NASCAR, and then she got into NRA drag racing, and she said she wanted to go something that would go from 0 to 200 in 1.3 seconds, and he got her a set of bathroom scales.
Oh my gosh. That's horrible.
I heard him tell that very story, so I'm out of it, but he got her something that go from 0 to 200 in 2.3 seconds or whatever it was.
So many jokes like that. I mean, he had jokes like that he couldn't tell on stage. Those are the ones you heard on stage. He had the ones backstage, like the show backstage at the Opry, when he would come in to our dressing room, and it was me and the guys in the band. On a night we were there, he would walk in and he would shut the door behind, and you knew it was coming when he'd just walk in and look to see if no women were present. And then he'd shut the door behind him, and then he would just start going. And it was crazy. Crazy jokes. And I mean, a legendary, he used to tell the joke, he's like, my wife said, "Honey, let's run upstairs and make love." And he said, "Honey, I cannot do both."
He told Bill Anderson once in the interview, he said, "Now, little Jimmy, what would you have done had you not became a country music singer?" He said, "Well, Bill, I was thinking maybe about the NBA."
Oh.
Never cracked a smile. It just went on. So.
And that wasn't like things like that. That wasn't. I haven't heard that one. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That wasn't a canned, repeated thing that he had in his material. That was off the top of his head.
Oh yeah.
He would do that. And I learned a lot from him about not taking yourself seriously. That to me was always like the fact that this guy was literally the runt of the litter. I think he came from a family of maybe 9 children.
Wow.
And he was obviously the little one. And I don't know whether they didn't give him his vitamins or what, but whatever it was that caused him to be little Jimmy Dickens, it's an enormous lesson in like make the most out of your sort of uniqueness.
Yeah.
And he always did.
It worked out pretty good for him, I would say.
It did. And he, and I mean, he changed all our lives. I mean, my family and I wouldn't be the same without his influence.
Well, as you progressed and different songs came along, and as I said before, I loved Whiskey Lullaby, and I believe, and you correct me because I don't know all this stuff, but I think Buck Owens' funeral is the first time I ever heard When I Get Where I'm Going. How long had you released that before Buck's funeral, or when did that come out?
Maybe. I can't remember. Probably. It was probably around that time. But Buck was another one that I became best of friends with. And, you know, that's the advice I give any of these new artists today. It's like, if there's somebody, one of these old guys that you just wish you could be their friend, they want to be. And I fully took advantage. I mean, same with George Jones, Buck, Bill Anderson, these guys. Like when I started dating Kim and she was taping her sitcom in California, I was out there enough to be able to drive up to Bakersfield, which was an hour from LA, and just go have lunch with him. And we wrote songs and sat and talked. And I spent many a New Year's Eve just sitting in as his guitar player, when he was still alive and had the Crystal Palace. And, I think those are invaluable things. And I think being that I was this kid that had a grandpa that was my best friend growing up, my fishing buddy. He was the guy that we would go fishing on the Ohio River right there in West Virginia, where I was from. He started me on guitar, he's the one that loved country music in the family more than anybody. And so I just kind of you've heard of I don't know if there's such a thing as a grandfather complex, but I have it where I basically adopt grandfathers anytime one of them will have me. Because there's something about grandfathers, and now watching my dad he's a great one, and I bet you are too.
Definitely.
There is something really special about that influence in somebody's life. And that's why I think with a lot of these guys like Buck and George and Jimmy and stuff that I just really wanted to make sure that I took advantage of the time I had with them.
I've got to do a lot of things in my life, and being a grandpa is the coolest thing that I've ever been a part of. And
isn't it though? I mean, it's just, especially a grandpa like you, you're a great example of if you could literally cast your grandpa in the role, I would want Hank Park.
Yeah. I mean,
well, I'll be your grandpa. I'll be your Huckleberry.
You might not be quite old enough to be my grandpa.
Oh, I don't know. I'm up there pretty good. I did a podcast earlier today with Dance, and he's 84, and still.
How's he doing?
He's doing great. Still fishing. He just got over COVID. He was in a big catfish tournament. Of all things, man, that guy has done everything. He's got a saltwater show. He fishes for everything, but he loves the catfish. So he was in a big catfish tournament and had to withdraw because he had COVID, and that was over the weekend. And so he's feeling better today.
yeah.
That's good. Well, I didn't even know they had catfish tournaments. I haven't heard of those that much.
200 grand. They have them up at the Bass Pro Shops at the Pyramids in Memphis, and it's
Really?
Crazy. Of course, he travels all over, and they have them everywhere. But 200 grand was.
What's the big fish on a catfish tournament? Are they coming out of there with monsters?
All 70 pounds, 65, 70 pounds, crazy stuff.
Unreal.
Yeah.
What's your big catfish in your life that you've ever caught?
I have really never weighed. I caught a couple pretty big ones, but I've never been a real catfisherman. I did a show with a friend of mine who needed some help down at Santee Cooper years ago to kind of help him get some business, and I went down and fished with him, and we caught some, and I think we caught one that day at 45 pounds, and that may be the biggest one I've ever caught. So. But I've caught a few I hadn't weighed.
That's a scary fish.
Yeah, I've caught a few. I've caught a few I haven't weighed along the way. But I still, my favorite thing now, and I'm going on the 10th of August down to Venice, Louisiana, and fish for redfish. And you fish with them for them with bass tackle, catch them on top water baits, and catch them weigh 50 pounds and that kind of thing. And they're like a bass on steroids anyway. So.
And they taste good too.
Yeah, I don't never bite the fin that feeds you. Pat them on the head and tell them thank you and let them go. So,
Yeah.
uh,
No, that's right. And you know I've done the redfish thing too, and it is a lot like the bass fishing, which I like that. You know, I've I've never been that into the ocean fishing otherwise, because there's something about bass fishing that speaks to me. That the going out in a like deep sea fishing, that always feels, first of all, you get sick.
yeah, I do too.
Unless no, I mean it's not even as much time as you and I have spent on boats in our life, it's not the same thing.
Nope.
Like I did Shark Week 2 years ago, and I thought I'd be fine
Mm.
because I'd do some scuba diving anyway. So, you know, we had to do, but it when you're booked for Shark Week, you can't say, well, we'll go tomorrow. It's raining and storming today. You got to go. So we went out. It was in the Bahamas, and that first day of it, you know, was 2 miles out to this reef where they had where all these sharks were, and it's this just on a boat the whole way there,
Mm.
and then it was changing your wetsuit when you get there, and I had to do that. I changed the wetsuit, and while you're trying to put on a wetsuit and the boat's doing this, and then I finally get in. Um, First time you get in, it's like, okay, now you're calm, but I mean, my nausea didn't go away that whole day. And so if you're not on an ocean boat all the time, I think you don't have your sea legs, and it's pretty tough to do. So I like things like the redfish or anything that's bass fishing adjacent.
Well, you think about a shark, and people say, "Well, that shark, he thought that was a seal, and that's why he attacked." I'm a bass fisherman, and I don't care what shape it is, what size it is. If that bass thinks he can get it in his mouth, he's going to eat it. So I'm assuming that shark pretty much has the same mentality as that bass. So if you want to have Shark Week, I am not putting on a wetsuit. I'm going to stay in the boat in a cage. I don't like sharks. I think they can bite you and they will hurt you. And so I don't want any part of that. You can have Shark Week.
I had a great time. I'd always wanted. I hadn't seen a shark in the wild really, and I'd always wanted to do it. And I was amazed at the way they weren't. So it didn't feel quite as dangerous as I thought it would. What in your mind it does. You And also I think the coolest thing the band ever saw me do was that, because I took my drummer and bass player and fiddle player and everybody out on the boat. We did a whole thing where we were experimenting with what sound does to like a whole group of sharks in the middle. So they had sort of gotten them there by chumming and got a bunch of sharks doing this thing around the boat. They were all circling the boat, and then it was interesting because yeah, they're doing this, and we played music for them. But I'd already been in the water for 2 days at that point, so I was used to it. And they're like, "All right, let's go do one more shot." So the band's on the boat, and they see me. I'm in a wetsuit as we play this music, and they see me jump right in with them. Like I'm like, "All right, guys, I got to do one more shot," and I put on my mask and tank and everything, and just jumped into the middle of the sharks because I'd already been in there with them. My fiddle player, he's been with me since or before I met you, and he's like, "Boss, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen you do." And it's like, but at this point, you realized, I don't know, they're not interested in me. They want the fish.
I would have
Yeah.
said basically what he said, but I don't think I would have used the word cool. Uh, that's the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Well,
I
there's
hate them.
that too, but that's true.
So where do we go from here? You've done everything. You've lived your dream. You married a beautiful movie star. You got two great kids. You're peaked out with the greatest of all times country music entertainer. You, you you played out of the bow of a Ranger boat on stage. Nobody else could ever claim that. What you doing now? What's going on?
We're in the middle of making a record right now that I think will come out pretty. The first song may come out this fall, and then the album will come out next year. And um, yeah, I'm really excited about it because it's. I think I'll send it. You know what we have to do, Hank? You got to hear it first.
I like
We
that.
need to get back together. I'll play you something and get your opinion, and you may look at me this time and go, "Yeah, no, that ain't it." Last time you called it, you called my number one hit. So this time you might be like, I don't know. I think you'd
We'll
like it.
see.
We'll see what you think.
Yeah.
That's exciting, though. It's really exciting for you. Just don't have him sing again. Just please. For my sake and for everybody else.
I'll try and stop him, but I don't know if I can. It seems like between me, Bobby Goldsboro, anybody else that's ever on your boat, I've heard you sing, and I don't. Somehow you just keep doing it in spite of the reviews.
Hey, they say make a joyful noise unto the Lord. It doesn't say it has to be a pretty one.
Yeah, I'm the singing fisherman. It's just hard not to sing, you know. I know all these songs. Somehow I sing your songs, but they don't sound the same.
Really?
Yeah, my wife
That's
don't
so
even
surprising.
recognize them, you know. I have to tell her, you know. I didn't even get close enough, so that's kind of a tough thing. But so how about this album that you're getting ready to do? What do you call them now? You call it a recording. You don't call it an album anymore, do you?
I do. I mean, it is. I consider it that. I mean, you know, the different only difference is the way you hear it, because it used to be, you know, you'd have it in your hand, it'd be a CD or a record or something, but now it's just you'll get an alert.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
How does
There it
that
is.
work?
Oh, it's available. You're asking me if I'm not sure anybody knows.
Do you still
mean, it
get
just-
paid like you would if you were selling a CD? Do you still get that same revenue, or?
Well, do you get paid? Yes. Not as much, but that's okay. There's a trade-off to everybody being able to have access to it right away, you know? And I think there's something fun about the fact that, you know, it used to be you'd have to get everybody's attention in concerts and going on television, all these things. And now people follow you. So you've got, you know, everybody's living in this little device.
Yeah.
Hopefully, again, there's people that have it figured out. I'm not one of them, but I definitely think there are pros and cons to this. And what's the best thing about it is you can make music and know that it has a real chance of people hearing it.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I do have a question. Who do you know that you think that we should have next on the next podcast, like as a guest?
Oh, that's a really good question. Somebody that obviously you would want a fisherman of sorts, right?
I would say
Yeah.
You
yes.
had
Yes,
other,
I would maybe within the realm.
have you had other country singers, or am I the first one on this?
You would be the first.
Number
Bobby
one.
Goldsboro. Yeah.
Number one. No, Bobby Goldsboro was the first
Um,
one on my television show. But
That's right.
yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
Let me think about that. I mean, unfortunately, I would have said little Jimmy Dickens would have been amazing in a podcast if he was still around, wouldn't he? He would
Oh,
have been
awesome. I would love that. But
just as great as it gets, you know. There's a couple of there's a couple of really cool new guys that love it. You know, I know somebody. I wonder if have you heard of Ernest? He's doing really well. He's a new artist in country music, and
I've heard of him.
he'd be a good one to get. I think Ernest would be fun. I'll ask him for you.
okay,
He
that would be
Alright.
awesome. That would be awesome. I
Who's
know
your
Luke
dream
Bryant.
guest?
Luke Bryant's a big fisherman. He's
Luke
he's a
would be
Bill
another
Dant
one I would
fan.
say. He loves that. He built his own pond too, and I think his is way bigger than mine. But I don't know if he's caught a 12. We need to find out.
Yeah.
I might be winning that.
Oh
I
yeah.
might be winning the fish size contest on that.
Yeah.
There you
I'd
go.
check that out.
But
I'd feel pretty safe with a 12-pounder in my hand.
yeah, exactly. I think we win that tournament probably that day, most likely with that fish.
Yeah.
But I think Luke would be great. That's a great idea. Do you know Luke very well?
No, I don't. I know he loves Bill Dance and Dance. He wrote a song about Dance. It was pretty cool.
Oh, that's cool. Well,
You
maybe
did
I'll
too.
stick Hank Parker. I need to get Hank Parker's name in something on this new record, don't I?
Well, that would be really
I
cool.
think you do.
I like that idea.
Something flattering though, and you can't sing on it.
Oh yeah, that would be
Yeah.
for sure. But you can say, "Hey, Hank Parker, the worst great fisherman, but the worst singer I have ever heard.
Yeah, commentary only.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think you're a really good fisherman, though, Hank. Are you so? Is there anything new that you're using that's like something new that I haven't heard of that I need to know about? What's the new thing that I don't have?
You
What's
know,
new?
the
I remember it's
phenomenon, the big deal
Oh,
now are glide baits, giant baits. I mean, like 6 and 7 inch baits, and some of them cost $300 and $400, handmade, and
not plastic, but handmade.
handmade wooden baits. They're called glide baits. One of the companies that I've worked with in the past, Berkeley, they teamed up with a company out of California, Savage Baits, and they make these glide baits that look more real than, I think they could actually teach a bluegill how to swim. They look so good. It's
Yeah.
pretty phenomenal. But some of these baits are $300 and $400. But it'll amaze you how many big fish are in public waters that you don't even know exist. They will not show themselves. Nobody catches them. And you go out and throw a glide bait all day long, and it will blow your mind how many 8, 9, 10-pound bass will follow your bait up. You don't hardly ever catch them, but they'll show themselves. They'll come up behind it, and they'll follow it. And occasionally you catch one. I have fished them for...
Why are they $300? I mean, here's the problem. I lose every other lure I use, so I'm going to be at like $1,000 by the end of the first hour.
Well, these glide baits, the cool thing is you can put them on 50-pound braid. And because they're on the surface, it doesn't bother the fish. So they run about, most of the ones that I use, you fish them in sight, so they're only a foot or so under the water. But it will literally amaze you of how many big fish are in public waters that you do not think exist. For whatever reason, you don't catch very many, but they will follow it up and you'll get to see them. It's pretty exciting. So I've been trying to figure out for 2 years now what a good follow-up bait. I got a 17-year-old
Right.
grandson, and he loves it. And so he'll throw that big glide bait, and I got all these little jerk baits and little finesse swim baits that I throw behind him. And I haven't been successful doing that yet, but one day we're going to figure out a little combo. He'll draw them up with that glide bait, and then I'll finish it off with a follow-up bait. So,
Oh, so you get to catch the fish.
well,
Wait a minute.
Yeah, I
You got
see
it the
how
other
it
way
is.
around.
we'll reverse it.
Yeah.
But he's young, and he loves to throw. I think they weigh, God, I think weighs 4 ounces. So he's really good at flinging that thing out there and winding it back. So once we figure it out, I'll play musical chairs with him, and I'll rotate and give him a chance.
I don't believe you.
Me either.
I promise I might.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the best I can do. Well, I tell you, man, we got to get together. I got to get you boys. We got to go. We got to make a trip up north to those big smallmouth and spend a little time. And you can play your new songs for me, and we'll just go have a big time, have a reunion.
You got a deal. I can't wait. Now that you got my number now,
I got your number, number 1.
use it. Yeah,
Oh,
tell me
wow.
when you're going to be around this area anywhere, and we gotta get together.
I'd love to do that, man. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you taking the time, because I know you're busier than anybody in the world, and you
It's
took your
so
time.
nice
And
of you to want to talk to me. And again, you're one of my heroes. I grew up when I was just an infant watching your television show.
I believe that. You're still a kid to me, though, so I don't know if you have those days you feel, oh, just call me, because I'll call you
Okay.
kid.
Yeah, you've made me feel young today. That's
Oh, yeah, you're just a baby, so you got a lot of time. So we'll get together. I want to take you boys fishing. We'll all go together and just have a big time. We maybe take 3 or 4 boats and just go have some fun.
I love it. Let's
That'd be
do
awesome.
All right. Well, I sure appreciate it. And I'm sorry we had the little hiccup with the technical
it. Oh
stuff.
no, it's no big deal.
You're used to it.
Technology, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
Right? At its finest.
All right. Well,
Well-
SaraBeth, it's your turn to tell him.
Beth, it's nice to meet you.
It was
too,
nice to
and,
meet you.
I'm glad you have the greatest grandfather in the world right there.
No, seriously. And I just have to say, too, I grew up on your music, like, taught myself guitar. So, like, this is a big moment for me.
That's so nice of you. Thank you. Well, I'm glad that I could be any part of your life that way. And I mean, your grandpa sure was a big part of mine. So It's an honor.
Yeah, he really is the
Well,
best.
good to talk to you, my buddy, and I look forward to connecting with you, and we'll go catch a fish. It's going to be fun.
I'm in. You say when. I'll clear my schedule.
All right, we'll do it. Thank you so much,
Thanks,
and
guys.
awesome,
Thanks.
man. What a great guy.
Yeah.
And
Be safe.
yes, sir. Thank you, my buddy. Woo,
See you
that's
soon.
20 years. I'm not going to wait that long. I'm going to go hook up.
Yeah,
But,
there you go.
Tell everybody goodbye, SaraBeth.
All right, bye. See you guys next week.
Hey, thanks for being with me, and I'll see you next week or next time. Anyway, God bless you. I'm Hank Parker.